We are going to have a PowerPoint, and then we're going to do some hands-on activities. We're going to have a lot of fun, but y'all have to work with us, and you have to listen really carefully, okay? I know y'all can do that. All right, so we're going to start off with a PowerPoint that Ms. Kilgore is going to present.
All right, everyone. So if you want to, we're going to watch a little video. If you feel like you need a little bit of energy, you can stand up, you can move with it, or you can just sit in your seat.
I can't see you. Integer things. How y'all make this? Leah. They made it.
Listen up, little homies, if you haven't heard. It's about to get crazy like Winona Ryder. Don't even think, keep it right third. Nelly said that it's gonna get hot in her. Okay, first things first, what's an integer? It's a positive or negative number. Not upside down, will buyers. Never mind, I gotta stop, my wife said I'm a nerd. So take a number line, 0 like this. Numbers to the right are positive. Numbers to the left are negative. And where the 0 is, that's relative. Cause numbers same distance are opposites. Like 6 and 6 negative. Negative 10, 10 positive. Are you still watching? I'm asking like I'm Netflix. The distance from 0, let me tell you, we call that the absolute value. Not like the dollar menu from Mickey D's. More like the worth of a number, see? Like the Care Bears, they're always positive. So pay attention and see if you follow this. Like a throwback to the 80s. I'm about to John Cusack, I might say anything. Negative 8 is 8 away from 0, so it goes this way. And 5 is 5 away as well. That's how I know that I can tell. Absolute value's 5 and I can write it with no sign because it's always positive. You're saying, how can that be it? I'm like, no, it really is. So when you see it done like this, gotta have some confidence and take your brain up off the fence. Just ignore the stupid sign and write the number on the line. Ignore the stupid sign and write the number on the line.
Drop the mic. Why you dropping?
Click it. Just click it.
All right, everybody, you can go ahead and sit down. We're going to get started. All right, so everything we're going to go over today, you already know. This is just a simple review, okay? At any time I ask a question, you can answer as a whole class, unless I call on you individually. All right, so the first thing we're going to review is our integers. So we know integers are any negative or positive whole number. We have some examples here. We just have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. They're all positive. We have negative 6, negative 7, negative 8, and negative 9. And we have some examples of what an integer is not. We have 1/3, 1/2, 3.5, 4.9. And so, as the class, why are these not considered integers?
They're not whole numbers.
Because they're not whole numbers. Good job. All right, we also have a few symbols that let us know whether or not a number is positive or negative. We have our positive sign and our negative sign. Alright, so we also know that the number line can help us visualize whether or not an integer is negative or positive. If a number is to the left of the 0, we know the number line. If a number is to the left of the 0 on the number line, what is it, guys?
Negative.
Awesome. And if a number is to the right of 0 on the number line, it is
Positive.
Good job. Alright, well, we can see here. Let's see. Jeremiah, can you go up to the number line there and point to a positive number for me? And how do you know that's positive?
It's to the right of 0.
Awesome. Good job. so I'm going to ask you a few questions. We're going to find out whether or not the following numbers are integers. Is 6 an integer?
Yes.
Okay. What about negative 102?
Yes. No.
Yes. And how do we know that's an integer?
Because it's a whole number.
Because it's a whole number. Good job. Because integers can be both negative and positive as long as they're whole numbers. What about 400?
Yes.
1/3?
No.
And why not?
Because it's not a whole number.
Because it's not a whole number. What about 1.5?
No.
1/2?
No.
1/5? What about negative 1/4?
No.
And how do we know?
Because it's not a whole number.
Awesome. Alright, so now we're going to review our opposites. So what is an opposite? Emma Spinks? Dalton?
Because the opposite of a number?
That's okay. So, we've already learned that every number has an opposite, right? So the opposite of a number is the same distance from 0, just on the opposite side of the number line. So if your number is -5, you know its opposite is 5 because it's 5 away from 0, right? So if a number is positive, that means its opposite would be negative. Or if a number is negative, then its opposite is going to be positive. So, again, the number line can help us figure out each number's opposite. Chloe, can you go up to the number line and point to a number for me? Any number. Okay, so what number did you point to?
Positive 3.
So what's positive 3's opposite?
Negative.
And how do you know that?
Because they're both 3 spaces from 0.
Good job, Chloe. Alright, so as a class, you're going to help me find out whether or not these numbers are opposites, okay? Or you're going to tell me the opposite of these numbers. What's the opposite of 6?
-6.
Alright?
-12. -5. 7.
So, say it again.
7.
Good job.
9. 12.
Alright, so, what is the opposite of the opposite of 7? 7. And how do we know that? Alright, so we have our answer is 7. And we know that because the opposite of 7 is -7, and the opposite of -7 is 7. Alright, so now we're going to review absolute value. Alright, so absolute value refers to the number's distance from 0. The absolute value of a number will never be a negative number, okay guys? The answer is always going to be positive. And the absolute value has a special symbol. Does anyone remember what that symbol is? Sky?
2 bars.
The 2 bars. There we go. And then Kanye here lets us know that absolute value will be like this always. Alright, so as a class, go ahead and tell me what the absolute value of this is.
4. 6. 12. 105. 88. 16.
Alright, and so we also know that that two numbers can share the same absolute value. So, what two numbers share the absolute value of 12? Alright, let's see if we're right. Are we right?
Yes.
What about the absolute value of 44?
44 and negative 44.
Are we right?
One and a half and negative 1.5.
Alright, so we know that 1.5 and negative 1/2 share the same absolute value as 1. Alright, so we're going to talk about something just a little bit different. We're going to compare the absolute value of two numbers. So comparing numbers just means that you're going to decide if two numbers are greater than or less than each other. We know that greater than and less than can be represented by symbols. So when you're comparing the absolute value of two numbers, you're going to use the following steps, okay guys? So your first step is to figure out the absolute value of each number. Then you'll decide which number is greater than the other. Next, you'll decide which number is less than the other. And then you'll write your inequalities using your greater than or less than sign. So, what are the two inequalities that we can make using the absolute values of the following numbers?
Greater than negative. No, 3 is
greater than
negative
6.
6. And negative 6 is less.
Alright, so let's use our steps to figure this one out, okay guys? Okay, so our first step is to figure out the absolute value of each number, right? So the absolute value of 3 is
3.
and the absolute value of negative 6 is
6.
So that means that 3 is
Less than 6.
and 6 would be.
Greater than 3.
Alright, so y'all see what we're doing here? So to figure it out, always find your absolute value because absolute value is never going to be a negative number. Alright, so let's try this one. There's our answers.
Negative
7 is greater than 4. 4 is less than 7.
Awesome. Do y'all understand it a little bit better? Okay, let's try with this one.
12 is greater than 5 and 5 is less than 12.
Alright, so I hear a few different answers on this one, so we're going to talk this one out together. So the absolute value of 5 is
5.
and the absolute value of 12 is
12.
Okay, so which number is greater?
12.
So we know that 12 is greater than 5, and that means 5 is
Less than 12.
okay. Good job, guys. Alright, so now we get to go to the fun part. We're going to work with manipulatives. How many of you know what manipulatives are? Okay, that's alright.
Nobody.
Manipulatives are things that you use with your hands to help show your work. You guys show your work all the time, so this should be really easy, okay? So, I'm going to pass out. Everybody's going to get 2 handouts, and then you're going to get these green little tiles, okay? Okay, Emma, will you hit the lights?
You don't get it?
Oh, yeah. So, did you seriously ask your math teacher if you have to show your work? Of course you did.
Why we got 2? Because we always have to. Because then if you don't show your work, then they wouldn't know if you did it.
Teacher should be keep on here eating.
Alright, guys. So, what you're going to be getting.
one piece of paper is going to have a few number lines on it, okay? I want you to go ahead and label those. Put your 0 in the middle, okay? You're going to go from negative 10 to positive 10 on your number line. If you need to add one more for one of these problems, that's okay. Does everybody understand what to do for the number lines? First?
Oh, no.
Alright, the other sheet of paper you're getting has some problems on it. Does everybody have these 2 sheets of paper? Alright. Okay, great. We'll get it. Now I'm passing out these things. Does everybody see what I have here? These are your manipulatives. These are going to be the things that you use with your hands to show your work. Okay? When everybody gets some, I'll tell y'all what to do. While I'm passing these out, y'all go ahead and be labeling your number lines from negative 10 to positive 10. Now, y'all are big kids. Y'all know that these do not go in our noses or our mouths. Y'all know that we don't throw these at our friends. Right? Okay. Does everybody have some manipulatives to work with? Yeah. Okay. Now that those are passed out. So, everybody take a second and let's look at number 1 through 3. Numbers 1 through 3 is asking us to find what? You can answer all together.
Absolute value.
The absolute value. And it gives you that number, right?
Yes.
Alright, don't answer anything yet, okay? Numbers 4 through 10 is asking you to do what? Complete the inequalities and compare the numbers, the absolute values, okay? So we're going to follow our steps that Ms. Kilgore went over. We're going to find our absolute values, okay? Then we're going to decide which one's bigger and which one's less than. How are we going to do that with our manipulatives? I'm glad you asked. We're going to use our manipulatives to show each absolute value on the number line, okay? For numbers 1 through 3, show me your absolute value. Start at the number it gives you and make your way to 0. Show me that distance, okay? Then on numbers 4 through 10, on one number line, you're going to show me one number. So like for number 4, you'd show me -5 on the number line with your manipulatives. Then you'd show me the next number, which is 7 on the next number line, okay? I want you to look at the distances that you have. You're going to look and see which one's bigger, which one has more manipulatives on it, okay? And then you're going to use your greater than, your less than, or your equal to symbols. Does everybody know what to do? Let's go over an example together. find, this one's like your numbers 1 through 3. It wants us to find what the absolute value of what number? Negative 12. So first I'm going to use my manipulatives to show negative 12's absolute value. I'm going to put one thing on negative 12, okay? And then I'm going to find my way to 0. You're going to count your manipulatives, and that will tell you your what? Your absolute value. Alright, so this one's going to be like your numbers 4 through 10. It wants us to compare the absolute value of negative 5 and negative 7, okay? So we put our manipulatives on one number line. We put one of the green things on negative 5, and then we put them to 0. We count that and know that the absolute value of negative 5 is 5. Good. Then we would find the absolute value of negative 7. Put a green tile on negative 7 and then put one for every space until you get to 0. Count your manipulatives and that will tell you that the absolute value is 7. Now we can look right here and see which one's greater. The absolute value of what number?
7.
Of negative 7. So let's just go over that. We know the absolute value of negative 5 is? And we know the absolute value of negative 7 is?
7.
We see that right here. We made that with our manipulatives. So we know that 5 is what?
Less than 7.
Less than 7. And 7 is?
Greater than 5.
Greater than 5. So in that little circle between each number, on numbers 4 through 10, you're going to put your symbol. It does not have to fit in that circle as long as I can see your answer. So the absolute value of negative 5 is going to be less than the absolute value of negative 7, and vice versa. Does everybody understand? What questions do you have? All right, y'all can get started. You have to use your manipulatives. I know some of these are easy for y'all, but I want to see you working, okay? I want to see the green dots on your paper.
Good job, guys.
Once you find your absolute value on the number line using your manipulatives, you can write your answer on the sheet of paper with a problem. Everybody see?
Just like that. Can you show me how you did that? Redo it. Gotta redo this one. Okay, so which one are you finding? The absolute value of negative 4. Okay. So you know it's the absolute value of negative 4 is because 4 places from 0. Good job. So you have a question about how to do the half, right? So you have to get as close as you possibly can, or you can find a smaller piece, or you can just move it. Because it's hard code these. Can you show me what you're doing?
I'm putting the little model things on the pieces to show the absolute value of -7.5.
Okay. And so you'll know the absolute value of -7.5 would be
7.5.
because.
There's 7.5.
Oh, thank you.
And when you're finished with the top, you can move on to the bottom. Just make sure you're using those manipulatives. Just like you would if you were using
So which one are you doing, Edie?
7.5.
7.5?
7.5.
Okay. Can you kind of walk me through what you're doing?
So since my number is -7.5, first of all, I just put like 7, started at 7 and went to 0, or started at 0.
Okay.
And then I'll go back and put that half.
Awesome.
It's supposed to be on -10.
Well, I mean, you know that it's the absolute value of 10 is, -10 is 10. So,
So which one did you just solve?
Number 5.
Number 5. And what was number 5 asking you?
What's the absolute value of -10? And it's 10, and it's 10 greater than 4.
And then 10 is greater than 4. And how did you know 10 was greater than 4?
Because it has more manipulatives on its side.
Right, thank you.
oh, how we do a living?
Just extend your number line.
How you do it?
Extend your number line. Just draw this little. So when you're done, make sure your name's on it for me.
Do I have to write in cursive?
No. Okay, so when you're done, what you're gonna do?
7?
Think about it. Can the absolute value of a number be negative? No.
No, it turned to 5.
So it would be 5 and 7. Just 5 and 7.
Yeah. And then,
Wait a minute.
Hold on, let me tell you what to do. So with this one, what you're gonna do is you're gonna create your own problems to solve. And I'll come back and check on it.
I shouldn't have finished so quickly.
it would be 5.
Right, it'll just be 5.
But, so it's like the one that doesn't take as much to the.
Okay, hold on.
I got it.
Alright, so when you're doing your comparing, what you'll do is you'll use your manipulatives. You'll start with -5, -4, -3, 2, -2, -1, 0. So how many? 5. Okay, so you know the absolute value of -5 is
5.
okay, and then you could just so the absolute value of 7 would be
7.
okay. So
And 7's greater than 5.
right.
But 5 has less things to 0.
So then that would mean 5 is
Greater.
less than
Less.
because you're not worried about it. You're not worried about this. When you're looking at something, is 5 larger than 7?
Yes.
No. 5 is, this is 5, right? So if I added 2 more, I'd have 7, which means 7 is greater than 5. So you would flip your sign.
Okay.
Here's a little trick for you. Anytime the number is larger, the little like alligator mouth is going to equal the larger number. Right. So then the other way would be 7.
So I basically did
There
all
you
of this for
go.
nothing.
You got it? Here, show me the next one.
Okay, so 4. Yeah, regular 4.
There.
And then
So instead of using the absolute value of -5 and 7, you use the absolute value of pick a number. Not the absolute value of 5. And then you compare the two. Just make up your own numbers. Do this, but make up your own numbers and then solve them. Good job, Scout. You got it, Amir? You know what to do? I want to see you using these, okay? You got your own, didn't you? Yeah. Yours. I want to see you using them. You have to use them.
I messed this up. I stopped putting number lines and I kept models and I put all the number lines there.
Do what?
I stopped putting the number lines. So I only have 4 number lines, but I'm on number 7
Oh, it's
or
a-
8.
Well, you can reuse your number lines. You don't have to keep your tiles there.
Okay. So,
As long as you have 2 at a time. Okay?
okay.
Alright, so who do we get these to when we're done?
I want you to hold on to it because we're going to go over it together, okay? All right. If you're finished, turn it over. You see these problems that we did right here? I want you to make your own. Write your own inequalities, okay? Using the same thing we did here, just different numbers. And then you need to solve it, okay?
How many of them?
Do 5. You heard that, TJ? All right. How are we, guys?
we're done.
Y'all done? Okay, I'm telling everybody what I told y'all. I'll tell y'all what I told everybody. Turn it over. Y'all see what we did on 4 through 10? How we solved inequalities? Write your own problems, okay? Create your own problems, just like that. Different numbers. And solve them.
1 through 5. 1 through 5.
Yeah, do 5 of them. Did that answer your question, Olivia? Good. You got it, Jeremiah?
Yes, ma'am.
You finished? I want you to write your own inequalities, okay, like they're doing. Same thing we did on numbers 4 through 10, just different numbers, okay? Make your own. Good question.
What about 7?
What about 7?
I seen you at the church.
Find the absolute value of 3.
It's right on your shoulder.
That's what church
I'm sorry. Alright. So then, right here. Okay, start at what number? No. Only the number line.
Are you going to the game tonight?
Now,
Yes, you.
which one's longer?
Yes. I got one ago, but it's like so cold.
So what sound are you here?
I only got one ago, but it's like so cold.
You got it, Amir? You using those tiles? All right, I want to see them. I need green dots everywhere. What about you right here, Sky?
I make my own problems.
All right, so walk me through the steps. What would you do right here?
Find,
Yes, of course.
okay. Find the absolute value of 41 and 33, which is 33 and 41. Then 41 is
So first you said you'd do what? Find the what?
absolute value.
You'd find the absolute values. And so the absolute value of 41 you said. And then for 33.
31
And so you know that 41 is what?
greater than 33 and 33 is missing.
Good job! Good job, Abby. You're doing good too. Yeah, see, this is awesome. You're using the manipulative still to solve your own problems. I like that.
Oh, I thought you had to.
Yes, you do. You do. That's my point. But some people aren't. So good job. Y'all are doing good. Yeah, you can go ahead and write them and then solve them after.
This is kind of easy.
This is what?
Kind of easy.
Kinda easy. I need to give you something harder.
I'm just saying.
Try for 5 more, Chloe.
Alright, 5 more.
Alright, so let me get a head count. How many of you guys are finished with numbers 1 through 10?
10.
Oh, yeah, I've been over there.
Most everybody?
Yes,
Okay, great. So we're gonna come back together and let's go over these, okay? As a class. Everybody have your paper ready? You can just slide those manipulatives to the side. Alright, let's go over them. So, number 1 through 3, we said wants us to find our what? The absolute value. And number 1 says, find the absolute value of -4. Who wants to tell me what the absolute value of -4 is? You said the absolute value of -4 is 4. Tell me how you did that using your manipulatives.
I took my manipulative and counted 4 spaces until I got to 4 spaces.
And then you counted your manipulatives. Awesome. Alright, number 2, the absolute value of 11. Scott. 11. Tell me what you did. Walk me through the steps.
I saw how much units to 0 was.
Well, what'd you do with your manipulatives?
Lined them up 11 spaces.
You lined them up. You started at what number?
11.
And then you went to what number?
0.
0. And then you went back and you did what?
Counted.
You counted them and you saw that you had how many?
11.
11. So that tells you that the absolute value of 11 is?
11.
Good job. Does everybody agree?
Yeah.
All right, number 3, the absolute value of negative 7.5, Abby. 7.5. Walk me through your steps.
So I went to the number 7.5 and I put
Hold on, you went to the number 7.5 or negative 7?
negative 7.
Good job.
And then I went and I counted until I put the manipulatives until I got to 0 and then I counted the manipulatives.
Good job, and that showed you that you had how many? 7.5. So that means the absolute value of negative 7.5 is, and everybody agrees? Good job. Let's move on. Number 4. These problems want us to compare, right? They gave us 2 numbers, 2 absolute values, and we had to solve until which one's greater than and which one's less than, right? Alright, so number 4 gave us the absolute value of negative 5 and the absolute value of 7. Who wants to walk us through that one?
So, negative 5 is less than 7 because I counted 5 spaces to negative 7 and then counted 7 spaces to 7 and 7.
And 7 is greater. So on your number line, first you found the absolute value of negative 5 by putting your manipulative on what number? On negative 5, and then you counted until you got to 0, right? And then on the next number line, you use your manipulatives on what number? 7 until you got to 0. And then you looked at the 2 that you had, right? Or you counted them. And you saw that which one was bigger? 7. So you said that the absolute value of negative 5 is 5, but what is it compared to 7? It's less than 7, and the absolute value of 7 is greater than the absolute value of negative 5. Did everybody get the same thing? Okay. Alright, let's move on to number 5. 5 wants to know the absolute value of negative 10 compared to the number 4. Who wants to walk us through that one? Edie.
So the absolute value of negative 10 is greater than 4. So I took my manipulatives and started on negative 10 and started at 10 and went all the way to 0, and I got that there was 10 manipulatives, so it's 10 places away from 0. And then I started at the number 4 and went to 0 and got that there was 4 manipulatives, so you know that 10 is greater than 4.
Awesome.
So the absolute value of negative 10 is greater than 4.
Awesome. Great job. Did everybody hear that? Did everybody agree? Good. Number 7 wants us to compare the numbers, the absolute value of 3 to the absolute value of negative 3. Walk us through this one.
Okay, so I put my manipulatives
Yeah.
and I put some on negative 3 and I put some on 3 and I saw that they were both equal.
You saw they were both equal. Did you put them to 0 too? And you saw that you had the same amount both times, right? So we know the absolute value of 3 is, and the absolute value of negative 3 is, and we know that that's the same number. So what symbol did you put right there?
Equal.
The equal sign. Did everybody else do the same? Good. Number 8 wants us to compare the absolute value of 0 to number 10. Who wants to walk us through that one? Oh, I'm going to be calling somebody, y'all. Chloe, come on.
I put 0 manipulatives on both because 0 is on both. And I put 10 manipulatives and I counted from 0 to 10 and got 10 and 10 is greater than 0.
Awesome. Awesome. Did everybody get that? Everybody agree? All right, number 9. Who wants to volunteer that one for me? Abby?
So I put a manipulative on 4 and then I put manipulatives until 0 and I counted 4 manipulatives, so 4 is absolute 4 and then negative 7 I put a manipulative on 7 and then put until I got on negative 7 and then I put them until I got to 0 and then I counted those to find negative 7's value is 7, so 4 is less than 6.
Exactly. The absolute value of 4 is less than the absolute value of 9. So good job, Abby. Does everybody agree? Yes? Okay, and then our last one, 10. All right, Sky.
Okay, so I put my manipulative on negative 6 and then I counted them up until I got to 0 and absolute value of 66. 66. Then I put my manipulative of -8 and count it to 0, and the absolute value is 8, and 8 is greater than 10.
Exactly. Okay, I'm going to repeat that, okay, just so everybody hears. So Sky said that she started at the number it gave her between those bars, our absolute value symbols, and that number was the first number, class? 6. So she put a manipulative on 6, and then she put a manipulative for every single space until she got to the number 0. Then she went back and counted her manipulatives, and she realized that she had 6 of those, okay? That told her her what?
Absolute value.
Her absolute value. Good. So she knows the absolute value of 6 is 6. Then she went to the next number line, and she started at what number?
-8.
-8. And she put a manipulative on every spot until she got to the 0. And she went back and counted them, and she saw that she had how many? 8. So the absolute value of -8 is 8. And then when she compares 6 to 8, what did she get? 8 is greater, 6 is less than the absolute value of -8, which would be 8. Does everybody agree? And everybody get the same thing? Good. All right, so we're going to come around. Y'all hold up one sheet. We'll get it. As soon as we get it, hold up this. We're going to do the one with the problems on first. Hold on. If you're still holding up your number line, put it down. All right, now we're coming to get the number lines.
Jasmine. Look at that.
They all just drop.
All right, now quickly check the floor. Make sure there are no manipulatives on the floor.
I clear as day.
Your friend doesn't have them in their mouth or their ears.
Get away.
The one right there, Edie. Amir got it. Still recording.
All right. Miss Kilgore's coming around with the bag. If y'all will be so kind as to hold these up for her.
Thank you. They look like green boogers. You have to. Thank you.
I have one more. It was stuck on my finger.
How do you know?
No, maybe. First time I understand it.
Wait, we have 2 of them? No, at first, like, my grade was computer was 7.
Y'all get ready. We have a closing question.
Y'all know for the closing question, y'all have to write your first name. It does not have to be in cursive.
Alright,
Okay,
so
that's
everybody
fine.
have their card with their name on it.
Yes.
Okay. And your closing question is, what two numbers show the absolute value of 25?
You can turn them right here. You can turn them in anywhere. We'll both get them. Olivia, will you run these up to Miss Kilgore? Thank you, ma'am.
Alright, do I have everybody's? I don't have yours, bring it to me.
Oh.
Alright, ready? Alright. Bella. Mackenzie. Trey. Quentin. Abby. Olivia Watson. Edie. Jasmine. Sky. Please. Dalton. Jeremiah. Amir. TJ. Emma Speaks. Preston. Javion. Olivia Shirley. Kevin. Kennedy. Emma Bound. Caitlin. Chloe. Kaylee. Lilith. And Christian.